Somewhere in the back of your mind, there's a number, the amount you're supposed to have before you can stop working. And most of the time, it just sits there like a threat. You've probably heard you need $1 million to retire in Canada, maybe more. You look at what you've actually got, and the gap feels impossible, so you push the whole thing away and promise to deal with it later. Tonight, let's actually deal with it. I'll walk you through what you really need to retire here with honest Canadian numbers. And I think the real answer is going to feel a lot lighter than the scary one. Start with that $1 million figure because it does more harm than good. It's a round number somebody picked because it sounds big and serious. It isn't based on your life. $1 million might be far too much for one person and not nearly enough for another. The number you actually need comes from your own bills and your own plans, not from what sounds impressive on a podcast. So set that headline figure aside. Your real number gets built from the ground up, starting with one thing. That one thing is your spending, not your income, what you actually spend in a year once you're retired. This is the whole foundation, so it's worth getting right. Picture your life after work. The groceries, the heat, the property tax or rent, the car, the phone, a few trips, gifts for the grandkids. Add it up into a single yearly figure. Some couples land near $40,000 a year. Some want 60 or 70. There's no right answer, only your answer. Once you know what a year of your retirement costs, everything else falls into place. Here's the rule that turns that yearly cost into a savings target. It's often called the 4% rule, and the simple version is this. Take what you want to spend in a year and multiply it by 25. That's roughly the nest egg that can pay you that income year after year, with the money still growing in the background. So if you want $50,000 a year, 25 times, that is $1.25 million. And that's where the scary $1 million number comes from. But we're only looking at one side of it. Because that math quietly assumes every dollar of your retirement income comes out of your own savings. For most Canadians, that's just not true. 2 government checks land in your account every month after you retire for the rest of your life. The Canada Pension Plan and Old Age Security, CPP and OAS. Almost everyone who worked and lived here gets them, and they cover a real chunk of the bill. Add them in, and the amount you personally have to save drops a lot. Let's put real numbers on those 2 checks. Start with CPP. You paid into it out of every paycheck you ever earned, and it pays you back as a monthly pension once you retire. In 2026, the average new 65-year-old collects somewhere around $900 a month. Contribute at a high level for most of your career, and the most you can get is about $1,500 a month. Call it roughly $11,000 to $18,000 a year for one person, just from CPP, depending on your history. That's income you don't have to save a single dollar to create. You already earned it. Then there's Old Age Security, and this one isn't tied to your job at all. It's based on how long you've lived in Canada as an adult. Live here most of your life, and you get the full amount. In 2026, that's around $740 a month at 65, close to $9,000 a year. Stack OAS on top of CPP, and a single person is looking at very roughly $20,000 a year from the government. For a couple where both collect, it can land near $35,000 to $40,000 combined. Now watch what that does to your target. Say you're a couple who wants $50,000 a year. Government benefits are already covering, let's say, $38,000 of it. That leaves a gap of about $12,000 a year for your own savings to fill. 12,000 times 25 is $300,000. Same lifestyle, same 50,000 a year. But once CPP and OAS do their part, the pile you personally have to build is 300,000, not $1 million and change. That's a number an ordinary family can actually reach. One more thing quietly shrinks your number, and it might be the biggest: a paid-off home. Finish your working years with no mortgage and no rent, and your monthly spending drops hard, because housing is the biggest bill most people carry. The couple who owns their place outright might live well on 40,000 a year instead of 55. Lower spending means a lower target, which means less you ever had to save. So every extra mortgage payment you make now does double duty. It builds the home and shrinks the number you're chasing. So what do realistic targets actually look like? Rough ranges, because your life isn't a spreadsheet. A single person who owns their home and wants a modest, comfortable retirement might personally need somewhere around $300,000 to $500,000 saved on top of CPP and OAS. A couple often lands in a similar range, sometimes less per person because they share costs. Want more travel and a richer retirement? The number climbs. Renting instead of owning? It climbs more. These aren't promises, just honest starting points to aim at. Now the part that actually gets you there. 3 tools, open to anyone with a bit of income. A TFSA, where your money grows and comes out completely tax-free. An RRSP, where you get a tax break now and the money grows untouched until you retire. And inside both, low-cost index funds, which buy a tiny slice of hundreds of Canadian and global companies at once, so you're not betting on any single one. Set up an automatic transfer every payday, let it buy the funds on its own, and mostly leave it alone. Boring on purpose. Boring is what works. The reason small amounts turn into real money is compounding. Your money earns a return, then that return earns its own return, and it snowballs the longer it runs. Over the long haul, a broad stock index has averaged somewhere around 6 or 7% a year, though it bounces around a lot from one year to the next. Put $300 a month into that, and after 30 years, you're often looking at well over $300,000, even though you only put in a fraction of that yourself. The rest is growth. Time does most of the heavy lifting, not the size of your paycheck. When you retire, changes the math too. Retire at 65, and the timing lines up nicely because CPP and OAS are ready to start right about then. Retire early, at 55 or 60, and you hit what people call the bridge years, a stretch where you've stopped working, but the government checks haven't kicked in yet. During those years, you live entirely off your own savings, so you need a bigger pile to carry you across. Early retirement is absolutely doable. It just costs more, because your money covers more years and grows for fewer. And here's something that catches people off guard. Retiring doesn't mean your money stops growing. The day you retire, you might still have 25 or 30 years ahead of you, so most of your savings stays invested the whole time, quietly earning while you draw a little each year. That's the idea behind the 4% rule. You're never meant to spend the whole pile at once. You take a slice each year, the rest keeps working, and for most retirements, the money outlasts you. I want to say this plainly because the headlines never do. Ordinary Canadians on ordinary incomes reach this all the time. Not lottery winners, not high flyers. Nurses, tradespeople, drivers, teachers, people who never earned 6 figures in their lives. They got there by starting with whatever they could, staying steady through the scary years when the market dropped and letting decades do the rest. The whole thing comes down to 2 ordinary things: a plan you can stick to and enough time to let it grow. Both are within reach on an ordinary income, starting from wherever you are right now. And almost every piece of this is something you can start this week. You can open a TFSA in an afternoon. You can set up a small automatic transfer that moves on its own every payday. You can buy your first index fund this weekend and never have to pick a stock. You can put a little extra on the mortgage or write down what a year of your retirement actually costs. None of it needs a windfall. It needs you to start, and then to give it the one thing it truly needs, which is years. The best time to begin was a while ago. The next best is today. So let's bring it home. Here's the whole method in one breath. Work out what your year costs. Subtract the CPP and OAS you've already earned. Account for a home you'll one day own free and clear, and fund the gap that's left. For a lot of Canadian families, that gap is a few $100,000, built slowly inside a TFSA and an RRSP, with steady monthly investing and a whole lot of patience. That's the whole answer. So pick one step this week and take it. Write down your number, open the account, or set up the transfer. Then let time do what it does best. If this made retirement feel a little more possible for you, subscribe, and I'll keep these Canadian money breakdowns coming. Take care of yourself, take care of your people, and start tonight.